You're watching HuffPost Live. I'm Abby Huntsman. We all know flea markets can be filled with junk, but if you know what you're doing and know how to find the diamonds in the rough, then you're doing it just right. But most of us don't know that. So luckily, we have interior designer, antiques aficionado, and TV host Bob Richter here to teach us the tricks of the trade. So for all of you that know that bowl, I'm sure you saw this today, Bob, or this week rather. I mean, it's perfect timing that you're here because it's been in the news lately where people find these antiques or they buy them for like $3, and it ends up being, in this case, $2.2 million that was sold at an auction. I mean, first of all, how does this happen? How does this get missed?
At the end of the day, who knows who was responsible for this garage sale? You know, it's like someone passes away, they empty out a basement. It frankly doesn't look that special to the naked eye.
It has a chip in it, for example.
You pointed that out earlier. Yeah, exactly. And you know, maybe the person at the garage sale had it $5 and said, "There's a chip. Would you take 3?" Imagine.
I really
and now
couldn't.
2.2 million. Yeah.
And obviously, not all of us are that lucky. We're not going to find something worth that amount of money. But there are a lot of great things we can find at flea markets if you know how to do it right, and something that you do very well. And I'm so glad that you're here to teach us more about it, because when I go to flea markets, I notice bits and pieces, and we can see you brought some stuff that I'm excited to get to in a moment that I think I really like that piece, but I don't know where I see that in my apartment, for example. So we have a few photos that we can show of things that you have found and have turned it into something that could fit in a room and make it look great. Let's show some of these. Let's start with the first one. Let's see.
Now, what are you going to do with ostrich eggs, Abby?
So you found? Did you find all of these at a flea market?
Everything here is from a flea market, with the exception of the table in the middle. It's from a specialty store.
Wow,
that's
so unique. That's what's great about flea market items.
Yeah.
And the ostrich eggs, like you said, I probably wouldn't stop and think I'm gonna pick those up.
I need some ostrich eggs today. Yeah, exactly. But you know, I think that put in the right way, it looks good, but you have to make sure that it doesn't look ridiculous. So I think that that's what people are afraid of, maybe, and that's why they go to big box stores and buy art at big box stores. But
and how much did you pay for ostrich eggs?
I think the two together were less than that Chinese bowl at the garage sale.
Wow, the $3 version.
Yes, I think I paid like $2.
Wow. Yeah. Let's show this next one. It's incredible. Totally different look. Yeah,
I mean, again, I think people struggle with how to display collections, and bookshelves are great because they're not just for books anymore. You know, at the end of the day, you have this really great swan, and the chair behind the desk I found at an auction, and it has so much personality in the room. I mean, it's just wonderful tooled leather, and there's some new items mixed in as well. So. And
I keep thinking, I mean, it looks expensive to me. It looks like you really had to go out of your way to find these pieces. If I were to walk in the room, I mean, it's a great conversation starter. Be like, wow, where did you get that unique looking chair?
Yes.
And then how much did that cost?
Well, I always say that if your personality isn't showing in your home, then we need to do something about it. Because if your place looks like a hotel room, who are you? You know, it's emblematic of a transient lifestyle or somebody who doesn't really care. I mean, if you come to my house, you definitely get a sense of who I am. And my clients are the same way. I mean, I find things for them, but it's for them. It's not my vision. It's my vision for them.
Yeah, and clearly you do a great job of that. I think we have one more photo we can show. Let's see how, wow, a totally different look here.
Yes, yes. And now there's an example, chair is vintage. The artwork is new. The lamp is vintage but repurposed. And very open and airy. And I think a lot of people worry that if they have too much flea market stuff, it's going to look like a junk store, and it doesn't need to.
So is the table stand vintage in this photo, for example?
No, it's a verdigris copper. It's a cactus design, and then I just had a large piece of glass cut for the top.
So when you are going out and looking for folks to find them bits and pieces to decorate their room, do you go in with a price range in mind? I mean, how does paying for all of this go into it? I mean, in your thought process.
Well, I mean, generally clients have a budget, and I can pretty much understand what that is at the beginning, but people are often surprised at how inexpensive flea market things are. I go to auctions, let's say, and I'll buy rugs for about 1/10 of the price of a retail store. And even after I have them cleaned and have a mat cut for them, it still costs the client about half of what it would at a regular store.
It's incredible. So beyond the price, though, when we talk about going to flea markets, finding antiques, really unique pieces of furniture and just odds and ends. I mean, what are the other benefits to that? I mean, it adds character.
It adds character, as you said so eloquently. It's a conversation starter, and it's not something you're going to walk across the hall and see in your neighbor's apartment. It's unique. These are items that add character to a space and texture and makes it feel like a home. And I think that we struggle with that in New York because so many of us live in places that are just literally a box without a lot of character.
That I do, and I feel like I'm the perfect person to host this segment because I need to learn a lot from you because I am your basic, like I'm just gonna go to the Pottery Barn or, you know, whatever the basic stores are around and find the same old pillows and that everyone else has. And so when people walk in, I want to find some more personality for my place. But I'm afraid to go to flea markets because I'm just not sure how to do it. So I'm so glad that you're here to help us out. And we have a bunch of video comments. People are wanting to know some of your tips.
Well, tell me what your fear is, though, because I'm so curious.
I'm worried that things will just fall apart after. Like I'll spend the money and it's a low price for a reason.
Right. Well, that's where if you have a relationship with a dealer, somebody who is trustworthy, you can figure that out if you go to a flea market, who has good stuff, who doesn't have good stuff, and get somebody like me who goes regularly and introduce you to a flea market. I think it's difficult.
You can be my flea market buddy.
I will be your flea whisperer.
I don't often find things that I think that's going to fit in my place.
Right.
And I realize you can be creative, though. You can paint it. You can do sorts of things that help it fit in your room.
Yes. Yes, you're not alone in this. For instance, if you buy a vintage lamp, I wouldn't necessarily recommend plugging it in and just using it. You can take it to a hardware store and they could rewire it for you. But that said, a vintage lamp has more character than its new counterpart, and even rewired, it costs about half. And it's cool, and it just doesn't get more green than buying what already exists. I mean, I think a lot of people talk about how they could be more green, and flea markets are really the number one way.
So there's an environmental benefit as well.
Absolutely. I don't think one needs to buy a new lamp ever again. There's enough out there at flea markets and garage sales and auctions to light up the world. But people are just afraid and they don't know how.
It's really a matter of being afraid. We have a video comment coming in. This is from Asia. Let's hear what she has to say.
Hi Bob, I'm wondering, do you have any great tips for bargaining down the price of an item? Thanks.
Hi. Well, I think
that's a question I think that a lot of people have in terms of bargaining.
Yes. I think the first thing you need to do is show respect for an item. Wow, this is beautiful. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? We have to understand that a dealer who has an item on the table obviously likes it and went to painstaking efforts sometimes to find that item. People get up at 4, 3 in the morning to go to house sales, and then they find one or two things and they bring them to the flea market. And so if you show that you like it, they're automatically going to understand that this is a real conversation.
See, my tactic is the opposite, which is obviously the wrong one, where I will say, no, if we were talking about the bowl earlier, this bowl has a chip in it. I'm not going to pay the price you're asking me to pay, and no one will pay that price because look at it. Look at that chip, look at that scratch.
Right, and you know, I think there's a way that you can still incorporate that, but that's not a great leading conversation. I think that you lead with kindness, put a little honey behind each ear, and it does wonders. But then, when you ask for their price, you can always say, so what's your best price? And oftentimes if you walk away and say, I'm gonna think about it, when you come back a half an hour later, if it's still there, you'll get a lower price.
So how do you know going into it, just the price that you give them, like how low to go that it's actually appropriate?
Well, you don't want to be insulting because that will turn them off. So you don't want to cut the price in half. I say ask as often as you can. So what's the price on this? And then what would be your best price?
You walk around for a while, let them stew a bit.
Yes, yes. Or if you feel like the price is somewhat in the vicinity of what you'd like to pay, then you can make an offer that's just a tad lower, maybe 20% lower.
And then is there a perfect time to bargain? I mean, in the day, you know, is it best to get there at the end of the day when like they know no one else is going to come in and they're more willing to give you a better price, or to get there, you know, first thing in the morning?
Well, I think that people are under the assumption that the early bird catches the worm at flea markets, and that's true maybe for that bowl that we talked about earlier, if somebody knows what they're talking about. But bigger items, furniture, artwork, mirrors. I saw you had a mirror on your wall in your apartment. I'm guessing it was a new mirror.
From a flea market type store, an antique, well, I guess it's more of an antique store.
Oh, okay, because at flea markets, large mirrors and things at the end of the day are halved in price because they don't want to carry it home. They don't want to put it back on the truck. There's margin for breaking it, and at the end of the day, they want to get rid of it. So if you want the deals, go at the end of the day.
That's really good to know. We have a comment coming in from Daniel Littlewood who says, do you think buying cheap art just for the frames is worth it? I see you have a photo here on the table. I mean, that's a great question.
Yeah, I think that's a terrific question. And absolutely, if you like the frame, you can repurpose it. I have artwork on the table that I bought the art in one place and the frame in another, and I married them.
That's really interesting. I mean, I feel like you walk by cheap art and you think there's something I can do with this. I'm not going to put a poster on my wall, you know.
Yeah, I mean, frames come apart. I mean, and not in the way that you were worried about earlier, you know? I mean, you can take it to a framing store. I mean, I don't know, am I able to pick this up at this point?
Yeah, please do.
Because here's an example. This little piece of artwork, nasturtiums, which is a flower I associate with home and family, I found at one flea market, and then I found a frame at the other flea market. So I just married them together with the help of my framer. He charged me $40 to put all of this together. I paid $20 for the frame and $15 for the artwork. So add it up.
And you're not going to see anyone else with
no
that
one else
combination
is gonna have this.
anywhere.
Exactly, exactly. And so I buy tons of frames, and I often go to flea markets with measurements in my wallet of artwork that I have. But sometimes I'll just buy a great frame to speak to the question because I know I'm going to have a use for it later on.
Yeah. Well, what are some other items that are undervalued in flea markets? I mean, I see you've got a lot of great stuff here. One of which I absolutely love, these aviator glasses.
I think they look great on you,
which
actually.
I might steal from you. I mean, how cool are these?
Yeah.
You're not going to find these at, you know, Oakley's or Kate Spade.
Well, Tom Ford probably has knocked them off and probably did it beautifully, but I paid $5 for those at a flea market.
Really?
Yes. And I don't know about you, but I sit on my sunglasses and I lose my sunglasses.
That's my problem.
Yeah, so I just buy them at flea markets and I keep my margins down, so if they go...
I might just keep these
well,
right
hey,
here for
you know, why not?
Let's go through some of these other things, though, because they all look beautiful. I see purses, and I think you're even wearing
yes, this is a
right?
vintage blazer that I have on right
Really?
now. Yeah.
I would never think to actually buy clothes.
Well, I mean, I do take it straight to a dry cleaner because one never knows. But I think there's a lot of character in vintage clothing. I mean, come on, how many times have you seen someone on the runway, J-Lo, saying, you know, who are you wearing?
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, oh, it's vintage. And
it sounds so
very,
cool.
sounds
and
very
looks
sassy
cool.
and elite.
Right.
But really, just go to a garage. Like in New York, the best flea market is the Garage Flea Market. And they have tons of vintage clothing people there.
So, Jack, I mean, what are some other things you can wear that you recommend taking a risk on and buying at a flea market?
I think coats and jackets are great. Also, concert t-shirts. A lot of people are like, you know, I don't know what to buy my husband or my boyfriend, and what was their favorite concert they went to in college or high school? You could probably find a great t-shirt at a flea market for $10, and that would thrill them. The sunglasses, like I mentioned, bags. I got this bag, which is from my hometown newspaper, and I used to work there, by the way, writing obituaries when I was in high school. And I carry it to the flea market now, but it has personality and style.
Take it to the grocery store. I mean, you
yeah.
can go anywhere. We actually have a video comment about bags. Let's take a listen. This is from CeCe.
Hi, Bob. My question for you is, I purchased an old handbag that I'd like to have refurbished for my daughter. I have lots of shoe cobblers, but I have no idea who I can use to refurbish a handbag like this. So I wonder if you could help. Thanks.
I see you have a very nice looking bag
yes,
on this table as well.
I love you, CeCe, because I was going to talk about the Louis Vuitton attaché here. And when I purchased this, it was covered in molds.
Can I even touch it? I mean, it looks too nice.
No,
you can open it.
You can pick it up, touch it. But it was covered in molds, and I did not want to touch it. So I carry trash bags with me when I go to the flea markets. I paid $10 for it. I put it in.
You paid $10 for this.
Paid $10 for it.
And it's a real Louis Vuitton.
It's a real Louis Vuitton. I put it in the trash bag and took it straight, to answer CeCe's question, I took it straight to my cobbler, and shoe people, if they're good, are also bag people. So he dipped it, cleaned it. I paid $100 to have it refurbished, but I get stopped on the street about this bag, people asking me about it, you know, because it's an older Louis Vuitton. And
well, and it looks like it has character, which I think makes it even cooler.
Yeah,
How much would a bag like this go for, you think?
Oh my gosh. 1,100, 1,500, something like that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, but a lot of people just would not have the wherewithal to want to go through the process of picking up a dirty bag and taking it to a cobbler. But luckily, I have these people in my hip pocket. I mean, you know New York. It's great because if you live in a great neighborhood, everybody's there. Butcher, baker, candlestick maker. And all the people who helped me, like my tailor, who needed to sew this jacket because there was a little rip in it, like my cobbler could take care of this. So CeCe, take your bag to your local shoe place, whoever does your shoe repair, and they would be happy to clean it and refurbish it for you.
That's great advice. It's so many girls I know will take that and they'll use it because if there's a cheaper way to buy a bag that everyone's going to want, I mean, that's where you do. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
We actually have a question from Huff Post Home. They want to know if it's a good idea to buy secondhand upholstered pieces. We're talking pillows, couches, curtains. Are these things that you would suggest buying at a flea market?
Well,
and how do you do it?
I'm looking at your facial expression, and I definitely get the heebie-jeebies, and I think that
well,
those
if you see a dirty couch.
Well, I'm not buying a dirty couch. I'll tell you that much. And I'm
what
not.
about bed bugs? I mean,
yes, great point. So I shy away from upholstered pieces at flea markets and thrift stores. I do. Sometimes you asked about drapes. I have vintage drapes. I bought my living room draperies in Paris at the flea market, and I put them in a garbage bag, brought them home, and took them to be cleaned, and it's fine. So, but a larger item, yeah. Unless you can take it straight to an upholsterer and you know you're going to reupholster it. Because sometimes I'll buy a vintage piece of furniture that's upholstered, but I take it straight to my guy Eldon, who does my upholstery, and I let him have it until it's refurbished.
So couch, maybe stay away from.
Yes. Stay away from couch.
Pillows.
No pillows.
You just don't really know where it's been, what's in there. It probably will cost more to fully clean. To clean a couch is very expensive.
Agreed.
So.
Agreed. And I feel like there are just some things you might want new. Or if it's vintage, you're going to want to have it recovered.
That's another good point. I mean, if you end up buying a lot of vintage items, a lot of items from a flea market, as we showed in the pictures that you decorated, do you balance it out with other items that are from, for instance, like a Pottery Barn, your basic stores?
That's exactly how you do it. You don't want to use all Pottery Barn, and you don't want to use all flea market. Because
see, I'm the other way right now. So.
Yeah, so you need a couple pieces that add character. Even just like, I don't know if we can see, boxes are sort of like a thing of mine. I just love, this is a quintessential Art Deco box. This had a price tag of $60 on it at a flea market, and I got it for $40. And I have some interesting other items in here that sort of have a little treasure chest.
I bet your place is so interesting to watch.
Well, I'm never at a loss
for
a conversation. But this necklace is actually, I'm going to give away my friend Mary's birthday gift, which I think is just so cool and bohemian.
That is very cool.
And it's not polite to tell the price of a gift, but you know, it was under $20, and she's
I actually want to ask about gifts. I'm glad you brought that up. I want to play another comment, though, from Sarah before we get to the gifts. Let's take a listen.
Hello, my name is Sarah from effortlesscool.wordpress.com. My question for Bob Richter is, what are the top 5 cities for antiquing and thrift shopping for flea markets, in his opinion? Thanks.
Wow. Okay, well, I think the #1 city, for sure, is the one that we're in right now. New York City's flea market is the best because people who sell here come from the tri-state area. There were so many great department stores in this area back in the day, and also there are a lot of international dealers who come and set up here. So there's a guy who comes from the Black Forest of Germany and sets up once or twice a year. People who come from France, and you can find wonderful
just to go to flea market.
And it's in a dirty garage, by the way, on 24th Street.
Of course it is, and I live on 22nd, so I have no reason not to go.
Yes, I'll take you. I'm on 23rd. So
Perfect.
There you go. But so to answer the question, so that's #1 for me. I think Brimfield, Massachusetts, which is coming up in May, certainly is right up there.
Probably San Francisco, I would imagine.
I've never been to the flea market in San Francisco, but I've been to Pasadena, and I'm going to put that as #3.
So just because it's a big city doesn't mean that it's necessarily a place to go for flea market.
Well, exactly. You want to generally be outside of the city for the best flea markets. Lambertville, New Jersey has a really great one that's close by, and I love Ohio and Kentucky. I'll put those together, but there's 2 there that are that are fantastic.
Well, in the world that we live in today, I mean, you can ask the question, can you even get good deals at flea markets when we have eBay, when we have Etsy, when we have Craigslist, and places where you can find all of this stuff online? You don't actually have to physically go to the store, and you can still get great prices for the same things.
Well, yes, you have a point. I think you can get great deals because ultimately eBay is great, but competitive. And at a flea market, again, people want to sell it. They're there to sell. So those prices are not fixed.
And is there something about seeing it in person too?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just bought a vintage blazer on eBay, and it's just a little too snug in the shoulder. So
you can't know.
What am I going to do with it? Make a pillow, you know what I mean? Or just donate it. So, I just, poured away $20 on eBay, which is not a lot, but it's still silly. So I like trying things on. I like seeing them. I like the tactile thing. I also think there's a piece of flea markets that if I could just share this, I mean, these are war ration books from World War II. And I mean, these were everyday objects that people used. And it just shows me that they went without and they were willing to sacrifice for their country. I think that flea markets have this wonderful sociological and historical component that, gives me goosebumps. I love this.
You can learn something. I mean, it's really like spending hours at a museum, as I said. It's amazing.
And this was a gift with purchase. The vendor was like, oh, you like those? Take them. They're not worth anything. But to me, I find them fascinating, and they're a great conversation piece in my apartment.
I was just going to say, I mean, you're really not lost for words or for a conversation when you walk into a home that has some of these items, and then you could say it didn't cost me really anything. Right.
Or like this, which is a hood ornament from a car. It's from a Corvette, and so just have it mounted on lucite, which is another easy thing that you can do. It's a great gift for a guy, put on a desk.
Do we ever look over things because we see a crack, or that it's broken? The color's not going to work in my place. I mean, how often do we overlook things because of one tiny little thing, and you really miss out on something that could be great, something that could be of great value?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point. That said, the dealer who I worked for many, many years, like day 5 at NYU, when I was there as an undergrad, I got a job with a really wonderful antiques dealer who taught me everything I know. And she said, don't buy broken. Don't buy chipped. Okay. Because if you're serious...
Unless it's this chipped bowl that we showed earlier and it's worth millions of dollars.
Exactly. But as a rule, that chip and crack is not going to go away. So unless you know you can live with it, but if every time you walk in and that's all you see, and something tells me that might be the case with you, that you walk in and you're going to look straight at that crack, it's not going to be
and I think we have a couple photos of things that have been repaired that we can take, like a painting, for example.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I would never look at that and think, oh, I'm going to take that home and put that up on my wall. Yes. But let's see the finished product. I mean...
Yeah.
Amazing.
That is trash to treasure right there.
So you can repair things.
Yes. Well, I can't repair it, but I have a guy named Jean-Pierre who's in the East Village, crazy French guy who has floor-to-ceiling paintings in his apartment, and I knew that I could take that painting to him. And the dealer, again, sold it to me for I mean, I'm embarrassed to say I paid $10 for it, but I don't think he thought he was going to sell it at all. And he said, I'm just concerned that it's going to rip more, so if you really want to take it, take it. When Jean-Pierre cleaned it and repaired it, not only did he do a beautiful job, but he uncovered a signature, John DeBoer, who is a listed artist in the Smithsonian Portrait Gallery and painted Robert E. Lee and other presidents.
Amazing. I mean, I've learned so much in just the last 30 minutes. But it sounds like, Bob, you need to have someone that knows how to frame. Someone a shoe guy, as you said, someone that can repair a painting. You need to have a lot of friends that know what they're doing, that can help with a lot of these items. And we didn't even get to the gifts part of it. I mean, you showed us the necklace that you got your friend, but it seems like flea markets could be the perfect place to find gifts for friends, for family members, because they are so unique.
Yep.
They're great conversation starters, and it's so fascinating. And I'm so glad that you were here to break this down for us. And thanks again for the sunglasses.
Yeah, they're yours.
I appreciate it, Bob.
Take them.
Thanks so much for being here, though.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.